back. We are in Arlington, Texas, obviously with Todd McShay. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to talk about draft stock. Wait, but time out. Where's your no jacket, no gloves? You're fine? You don't need it?
This is no big deal.
You're a tough guy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
I might sing a different story if I was out here for 90 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm very weak.
Take on the game. Just quick thought.
I thought coming into the game, Ohio State was faster. I thought that they were a little bit better in the offensive and defensive lines, but not quite as – I didn't realize they were going to dominate the fronts the way they did. I mean, their defensive linemen, it just two-gap, locate the ball, shed, and go. And their offensive linemen – how many times did Cardell get pressured? Like, really legitimate.
None.
He was standing back.
He was
standing back there taking his pictures, calling the family, ordering some popcorn. He was doing everything.
And Ezekiel was unbelievable. I mean, he created so many yards after contact, but he had a lot of creases. So that offensive line, that's really the story to me, because I saw them early in the year. They lost to Virginia Tech because they couldn't block anyone up front. 4 new starters, and all of a sudden to watch that group tonight be the dominant force in a national championship game.
Are we looking at some offensive line draft picks?
Well, they're all young.
Yeah, they're just young.
Yeah, so
they're only going to be better.
The beauty is for Ohio State, they lose 4 guys to the NFL draft, and all good players, but none of them are the exceptional stars.
It's not life-changing. Well, let's stick with the draft.
Okay.
Now, Marcus Mariota becomes the first Heisman-winning quarterback to lose in the postseason since Sam Bradford in 2009. How did this game, in your opinion, affect his draft stock?
I think when you look at the big picture, Marcus Mariota is great in everything he does, except the most important thing that you look at when you're evaluating a quarterback to the next level. I've been saying it for a few weeks now. His pocket passing accuracy, as we see in this clip, is one of the examples. I thought he made a few good throws. There were a few times when he checked down, went through progressions, and made NFL-style throws. But you cannot miss that tight end in the flat there. You know, you can't underthrow that receiver. There was 2 throws, distinctly remember, against Florida State in the first half of that game where they were pure pocket passing throws where you have to anticipate, and he's off target. So he's got a big transition ahead of him. I think he's capable of making the transition, but he's got to go to the right place. He cannot be forced into the battle right away. And that makes it very interesting because you've got Tampa Bay and Tennessee and Washington and New York, 4 of the top 6 teams.
But he's still a first-round draft pick.
I think he's a first-round draft pick, but I think the best thing for him would be to fall to a team that's not ready, that doesn't need a quarterback this year and can develop him.
Is that your way of saying we can put an end to all of this discussion about him potentially being the first overall pick in the NFL draft?
I've said it all week for the last couple of weeks. I don't think there's any question Jameis Winston's the best player in the draft and far above Marcus Mariota in terms of the football skills. The only thing that's going to knock Winston, it's really 2 conversations. Winston might not be the first overall pick because the team decides we don't want to deal with him off the field. Sure. But Marcus Mariota, I don't think he's really even in contention, in my opinion, to go ahead of Jameis Winston.
Yeah. Look, you have been very clear from the start about this. You have fixated on the pocket passing, which clearly men from boys when you get to the National Football League.
Right.
And yet, let's take nothing away from this young man's career. He had a phenomenal career.
And it's going to be brutal the next 4 months.
What did he come into this game? 103 touchdowns in his college career to 13 interceptions.
And he did everything the right way.
He did it the right way, and he's a good guy.
He's a phenomenal guy.
Listen, he is a spectacular athlete, especially as a straight line runner. He can fly.
And don't forget this. What he was asked to do was run this offense, and no one's ever run it better. No one has ever run it at a higher level than him.
After the opening drive tonight, you thought, man, they had it on their heels, right?
Guys, I don't want to take anything away from the kid. Wonderful kid, great character, epitomizes everything you want a champion, a Heisman Trophy winner, a collegiate athlete to be about. Taking nothing away from him. But when you elevate your level of greatness, you start being measured by great standards. And the great standards is what's awaiting for you at the next level. And when we saw tonight this young man, play against men, Marcus Mariota got exposed. He did not look like the guy that we have been hearing so much about from people outside of you. And that is the facts.
Yep.
Those are the facts.
Again, on our show on First Take, I have argued for 2 years, especially with Robert Smith, who is a huge Mariota fan, that from the pocket, he's not consistently accurate with his second and third reads. And we saw it several times tonight. I don't think he has a great feel for scrambling, although on one scramble, he hit Dwayne Stanford with what could have been a touchdown pass.
His eyes drop sometimes.
Yeah,
You'd like to see him stay up and for him to move. I think he can fix that, though, because I do think he has great natural football instincts.
Yeah.
He's just going to have to develop as a passer. Let me say this real quickly before I go. Cardell Jones tonight, I know he had all the time in the world. He is a big boy who is a dominant runner, who has a strong arm and can make all the throws, and reminds me a ton of Ben Roethlisberger. He's as raw as can possibly be.
What are you getting that for?
We already said it.
I'm trying to finish a sentence here.
I'm sorry.
No, but I told you were crazy when I said first round, and I don't think we're talking first round. But I think, honestly, a team watching this, even though he had all the time in the world and he has so much to learn, you might take a flyer on him in maybe the 4th round and say, you know what, we're going to bring him in and develop him, because what I saw on that field tonight was a quarterback that can do everything you need him to do if he can just learn the game and continue to advance mentally.
I put my arms out like that because that's what I said when I first saw him against Wisconsin about Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Well, that was the question we were going to ask you. You know, you came on earlier this week and said you didn't think he'd be in the first round.
I said maybe late.
But after tonight,
just watching him up close, I was impressed. I was thoroughly impressed. He's making throws that not a lot of other guys in college football
never been able to move like this young man can move.
No, I'm just
a couple times he accelerated.
I hate to interrupt them.
I know, because you are.
You guys talk. We're going to talk.
We know who the expert is, Tom. We know.
Let him talk.
I don't know how you guys are doing. How about you have Joey Bosa, who's a top 5 pick if he was eligible for this, right?
Yep.
You've got Ezekiel Elliott, who's going to be who's going to be first running back whenever he winds up coming up, because the kid's an absolute stud. And you've got Jalen Marshall, number 17, who's a phenom, versatile weapon. I mean, this Ohio State team is for real.
It has me thinking, and I'm loving it now because obviously Jim Harbaugh's going to have his work cut out for him recruiting against these boys at Michigan. But I got to tell you, Urban Meyer came there, and he inherited a team that was 6-7.
Yeah.
First year, he went undefeated.
And they weren't that good.
Second year, they weren't that good. Went undefeated. Second year, he didn't lose until, what was it, the Big Ten Championship game.
Yep.
And then this year, I mean, come on now. This dude right here is something special. There's something special about Urban Meyer.
But wait a second. I'm not going to leave Cardale behind yet. We're going to get off that. Todd, seriously, this young man is eligible to make him to come into this draft, right? He could if he chose. I don't know what he's going to do. He's made some noise about coming back next year. If he's in this draft, I cannot believe he wouldn't go higher than the 4th round just on speculation. You got a 3-game sample size.
I wouldn't rule anything out. Who knows? I mean, he has the physical tools to develop.
He's like 265 or 70, but he carries it so well. And I made the point to start the show. To me, he might be another level from Cam. And I know that's way out on the limb, but I'm seeing a guy. Hey, listen, Cam had trouble with his accuracy in this national championship game against Auburn.
The thing I saw him do today that I hadn't seen him do much in the first 2 games was come off his first read and patiently wait in the pocket. The first 2 games, it was one read, as we talked about, head down, let's go. And that was fine. That's what they asked of him. Today, when he had time, he sat in the pocket, surveyed the field, came back. Listen, he was late on throws. That pass interference in the first half that Devin Smith got out in the end zone, I was sitting next to Trent Dilfer. I said, go. And I said, go again. And then he threw the ball. I mean, so he's that late on some throws. He's got a lot to learn. He's careless with the ball at times, but you can't teach what he has physically.
And I'm of the mindset, I'm sorry, it's just my amateur thought. I watch the NFL all the time, and I see a lot of guys on the NFL level that are relatively weak and don't have the talent, and you have to acquiesce to them because that's all you have to work with. You know, Lindley's a perfect example in Arizona. Don't even get me started, okay? Don't tell me that Cardale Jones cannot be a first rounder, be on the bench for a year or 2, and start for an NFL team walking around at 260, okay, capable of running over linebackers, and by the way, can fling the football 65, 70 yards in the air.
There's something fun about having him yelling you with the hat and with the gloves.
And then he's trying to still go by that. Todd, let me ask you this quick question. Okay, so we heard Urban Meyer talk about Cardale Jones. Obviously, he went from that infamous tweet, which suggested he didn't want to be in school. But most recently, I don't know if folks know this, he had a child, and a lot of his teammates, as well as Urban Meyer, said that it changed who he was. It matured him on and off the field.
Up a few months ago.
Right? So it's a small sample size, but no one would be wrong for taking this kid early on.
No, and you know, if you're advising him, I never tell, unless you have a first-round grade and he doesn't have that, you know, from the advisory committee. And by the way, you have 3 days now, 13th, 14th, 15th, to make this decision, which is kind of hard on some of these players that are playing in this game. But you know, when you look at it, I don't know that I would advise him against doing it. Because and I'm not telling him to leave, because if he goes back to school, he's got an opportunity. There's so many different possibilities. Who knows what's going to happen next year? But if he left, you can kind of understand. How's it going to get any better?
I agree.
Just from a draft stock
Exactly.
standpoint, if you will.
Okay.
Especially when Braxton Miller and JT Barrett is coming back.
How
Again,
about,
I'm not
Right. I know.
telling
We
him-
understand. We
All right.
understand.
how about when he ran the sneak, got stuffed, and took it outside and outran the defensive end around the edge?
He's an ox,
I mean,
man.
hey, and he can move. He can accelerate. I'm seeing first-round talent. I don't know if he's a first-round player, but he has first-round ability.
There's no point in time that any quarterback in the NFL is ever going to get the amount of time that he got in the pocket tonight. But you see when he does have a little time what he can do.
He had all day, as Stephen
Is it fair to say he's a better prospect right now than the two kids he replaced?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Physically, no question. And JT showed a lot this year,
Sure
too.
he did.
So, Todd, excuse me for a second. We got a nice group of people out here. It's, again, 36 degrees. You guys, let me hear you. OH! Thank you. We appreciate it. They love us here in Dallas. I think we should move the show to Dallas.
You know what
do
I'm
you think?
impressed? The Oregon fans are still
And
out there
they
screaming.
don't care either.
They're not ashamed. They're just right here. I'm impressed.
They said we got to find something to cheer about tonight.
All right,
That's
so
what
listen.
they're saying.
Hopefully the same crowd will join us tomorrow at Gillies because we're going to have about 3 hours of sleep. We'll get back up and do it all over again. You'll join us, right, Todd McShay?
I'm on the plane home.
All right. Okay. Gillies, Dallas, tomorrow. We'll be there. Hopefully you'll join us. When we come back, more from Arlington, Texas and AT&T Stadium. Congratulations once again to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Todd, you want to borrow my gloves?
No, I'm good.
You're good? You sure?
Nice and warm out. I like Stephen A's.
You like Stephen A's gloves, right?
Yeah. I'm going to
We'll be
have
right
some
back
questions to ask.
in just a few moments.